Happy day. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm having a pretty good day. Today we're going to take a look at my last tournament. I just completed a tournament at the Hales Corners Challenge, the 32nd annual Hales Corners Challenge. Games for this entire tournament were games in 60 with a delay of 6 seconds. Not sure why they do it that way. I didn't ask and I didn't care. I just wanted to play some games. And for those of you that have not noticed this before or have been watching, you may have noticed my opponent. I have played him before. 66 is so whack. I don't understand why they do it that way. I believe they do it that way, and I could be wrong in this, but I believe it's so it's not dual rated. Because then the time works out to where it's not a quick rated tournament. It's actually only classic. I don't know what it doesn't really matter to me one way or another. I just wanted to play some good games, and we got some good games. If you're new here and you enjoy this kind of content, please make sure to hit the like button, share it with your friends. I am trying to grow. I would like to see if more people would find this type of content interesting, and if you do, it shows me that you do enjoy it and that I will continue to produce more of it. So that does help me out. It keeps me motivated. If you are watching this for the first time, please try to like and share. It really helps me out a lot. All right, let's get into the game. So I played a normal English Botvinnik system. I'll kind of get into the opening. Now, last time I played him, he did not play this move. I believe he kept his bishop out here. So he's learned a little bit. And we kind of get into it pretty quickly. This move is interesting, letting it happen. Before I castle, a lot of times, if I do think that they might bring their bishop here, I'll play an early h3 and just prevent them from coming in anyways. And then they play here, and then we play here, and it's just a game. Pretty normal. I'm kind of impartial, so this time I decided to do something different. I decided to castle instead and see if he comes in. Main thing is I can gain a tempo then. If he wants to trade, I'm happy to make this trade, which is fine for me. And yeah, we're okay. And then his bishop is kind of awkwardly placed out on b4. People that bring their bishop out here or to c5 are usually met with some resistance pretty quickly, and it turns into this turns into a real problem piece for them a lot of times, at least in the Botvinnik, because I think most people believe or expect that d4 is going to be pushed, and I usually delay that with d3, and now I've got this huge center that's tough to crack, and I like this type of setup. It works really well, and my pieces are really coordinated. It works out. I have all these pieces eyeing the f4 square, and then I can get f5 and f6 if I'm lucky, and I get this really strong kingside attack. And if they're not careful, it's really difficult to deal with. And I have been running some cycles and reps through this, and my attacks are getting pretty nice, really solid. I'm happy with my play, and but yeah. So, and this next move here, a3 is always a interesting move. It's putting the question to the bishop right away. And if he wants to peel that off, he can. And now this time, I don't have the luxury of taking back here because we do have this pin, which is a little annoying. Actually, let's do this. And we have to be careful. So I do have to take back with the pawn. And either way, you can take with either pawn. In other lines, this usually gets traded off before a lot of this development. And then, Magnus Carlsen played a D takes. And you get this interesting pawn structure that is really difficult to break in. With the idea, this is before this knight's even developed. Let's go back. A lot of times it is before there, they peel it off like this. And then you get this variation. And actually, this is even before this. So I'm probably getting a variation wrong. But there is a variation where you get this bishop is traded off. And this bishop, instead of here, is actually here. And you route the knight. Instead of there, you go here and then here after an f3. And it's a pretty solid structure. I've had it a few times. And that's definitely a way to play. The other option instead of here is coming into here. And I haven't played around with this move too much. I don't know how I like because you always have to deal with the trade-off right away. And I don't really like either of the pawns taking yet because, it hems in my bishop. But you do get this control over the center, and then they have to deal with c6 and try to break, and it gets difficult for black to deal with. I haven't played around with that yet. I think I've done it maybe once or twice, but I typically don't like going in there, which is why I like to force the bishop out. Mainly because if they come back here and here, we have this and this, and this has to be prepared, but the bishop gets really, it's not fun. Not fun to deal with. So, yeah. Okay, so he takes, and here is where, so I'm familiar with all this. This was the move that makes a lot of sense, and a lot of times I feel like people don't make this move. They play a6, or they play h6 because they don't really know how to proceed. The idea of h6 is obviously to be able to tuck away the bishop in the event of g5 or g4. A6 is usually preparing for b4, but we don't really care about that. It doesn't really matter to us. If he wants to trade that off, that's fine. A lot of times we don't really care what's going on the queen side because we have this king side attack that's going to be coming. But this was a good move, anticipating that I'd play g4. So he's got all these all these pieces on here, which he can make a sacrifice. And though it feels like it could be dangerous, and it can be if you're not careful, these three pieces, I have 2 plus these pawns and my queen that's coming in. So though it looks like it might be dangerous and menacing, these pieces actually get in the way of the pawns from actually creating an attack for black. So it doesn't really work out. You just have to be a little bit okay with opening up your king side and letting them sacrifice a piece. And it's safe. It's okay as long as you're careful. Plus, this is also another kind of hidden piece that's coming because we have this and then this is going to be coming in. So though it looks like we don't have much defense, we actually have quite a bit of defense. So I do usually play g5 to provoke some sort of sacrifice, and then wait them out, and then go from there. And it works pretty nice. So, all right, we continue our development, d3, and we now have this full control on the center. And nobody's coming in. I have all the pawn breaks, which is with f4, which you'll see comes very soon. But yeah, it's so far I'm getting everything that I want out of the opening, and I feel like his pieces are a little bit uncoordinated, and though these pieces are on the side, the only thing that they're really doing, they're not putting any pressure on me, but they are putting pressure, or they are defending his king. So that makes my attack a little bit slower than I would like, but we're okay. So here's a typical move that, what is it, this one? Yeah, this one. So yeah, so Control and Alt makes it a different color. I feel like this is just trying to gain space somewhere, and there's no real thought to this, because all it does is kind of stop him from being able to do this break. So this to me was a mistake. And I'll mark it as a question mark, because I don't think you should allow that. A6 was probably better with the idea of b4 after maybe one of the rook to b8. That's typically the best plan in these types of things, but he might be thinking, okay, I'm going to try to provoke him to play a4, and then he maybe has a little bit of pressure, but the knight's never coming into this square because this pawn is, locking everything up. And this knight is pretty much right now pretty much out of the game. It's not doing anything, and I didn't really understand what his idea was for this plan, but so I'm gonna cause another weakness. So now his light squares are just completely annihilated. I mean, this light square bishop is over here not really doing much. This does have a pin, so I do have to deal with this, but after that move I can now get play g5, but he wants to get the knight to b3, I guess. But yeah, it's weird. He can get it to b3, and he actually eventually does get it there. So the idea is there is a hole right here in my position, but it really, even if he gains this, let's say he gets that like in the next 2 or 3 moves, it's not doing anything. My bishop's going to develop to here or here, and it's almost kind of useless, because it really doesn't serve a purpose. It looks like it's a pretty outpost, but it really doesn't do much. But yeah, it's a weird plan, for sure. I think the reason I like playing the English is a lot of people don't know how to deal with it, because I can play on all sides of the board. I can play in the middle. I can play on either wing, and I'm solid no matter which plan I take. And I think it really jams people up because they don't know how to proceed. There's no breaks in the middle. They can't really break through on either side, and a lot of times they're hampered by space, and they're just kind of stuck trying to come up with a plan that just never comes. So yeah, I played bishop g5. I was hoping, kind of trying to get him to move his pieces and react, and he is. Because if he lets me take this, then I've ruined his king side. That's the idea here. So he's smart enough to cover that. But now his queen is so awkwardly placed. And he definitely didn't want to put it here, because now you're, in this pin. And so it's like really the only move, other than moving the knight, which his other option is to just come back here, but that's just like ugly. And maybe that's actually a try, because then he can play f6. And though it's not amazing, I feel like that gives him a better defense, because he has this, and then this bishop can come back. And I've got to bring my bishop back here. And I feel like this would have been a better try. And a lot of people like to try to play this move too, but it's easily met with this, and that's actually favorable for white a lot of times, because, you know, I then have my bishop open, which becomes a monster, and this knight's coming in, and I'm getting pretty much everything I want out of the opening. So he chose to protect it. I like moving back, but then that knight has like no future. It's stuck there until you do some magic, and it kind of sucks. So he doesn't, like, you can just see how uncoordinated the pieces are. They don't have a lot of squares. So he's definitely jammed up. All right, I finally get my queen out of the pin. And he decides to take that off. So he gains the tempo. He gets that tempo back. Okay, that's fine. And now he finally has this plan to get through, but it kind of doesn't work. And now I thought he might play f6 here, which I still think might have been a better plan, because now he's alleviated this knight, and I think he is kind of unwinding a little bit. And I think f6 would have been a good try. I think it's still a problem, but yeah. So here he plays h6, and I had to calculate this before anything, so I had to be careful that if he does play h6 or f6, that I'm okay. And the reason it is okay for all of these things is that I always have f5 attacking his queen, and then he's got real problems. And that's kind of exactly what happened. He attacks my bishop, and I attack his queen, and look at just how embarrassed the queen is. It's just sitting back here, like let's just give it a. It's just not. It's just like such a passive piece, not doing anything. It's really bad. Now, here is my first like real decision of the game, and I thought for a while. I think here, what move is this? 17. 18 actually. Yeah, I thought for about 8 minutes. This was my longest think of the game. Yeah, I spent 8 minutes on this move, trying to come up with the best place for my bishop. And my two thoughts were, is it best here or is it best here? And I think they each have their pros and cons. I don't know what's best. I think the move I played is the best move. I could be wrong. And I did end up playing bishop to h4. Now, I do think that this move also has some value, just in the event that it does keep an eye on the square, and we can always peel off that knight if we ever want to, because now he actually does have this and then this after that, of course. But if I wanted to kind of prevent any of that, I could do this. And then attack here. So this is obviously his plan, those three moves, not necessarily in that order. And then, you know, I might consider trading this off so he doesn't get that piece. And then, but I didn't like that plan just for the fact that if he takes this way, if he takes this way, he's got this open D file that just becomes something that I have to deal with. And I didn't want to deal with that. So I thought that my bishop was better placed on h4. It's eyeing all these squares, and it's staying on the king side, causing problems. And I thought, okay, well, he wants to do his plan. I'm going to let him do his plan, because now, look, all my pieces are on the king side, with the exception of this guy. And even if he does get his knight here, which is a small victory for him, it's not doing anything, and it has nowhere to go except back. So, I mean, yeah, it's controlling these squares, but what are those squares doing? Nothing. I'm not doing anything in the position. They're pretty much benign and useless. So he's going to follow his plan. And I said, okay, well, now we're going to start pushing the pieces. And okay. And the other idea was, because I had this plan, I can now bring my bishop back to f2 and still control that square. Just a little reroute action I thought was a really kind of a nice way to deal with this, because now I can do this, and I've got all of these pieces kind of pointing this way. And they're still kind of controlling the king side, and my idea is to get the bishop back here and then go here. And now it's kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but I thought that it was pretty nice. So he gets his prepared move. So I can see everything that he's doing. I'm getting my pieces prepared to try to break through on the king side, but he makes this weird king to f7 move, and I'm like, what? I didn't really understand why he did this move. I believe he thinks that this is going to break through, and if we do break through, he's got all of this. But now that I know that he's going to move his king towards the center, I'm not going to try to break through. I'm going to let his king be in the center, and I'm going to strike in the middle and blow it all up. Because now his king's not in a safe place. He's moved it towards the center of the board, and there's still major pieces on the board. It's just not good. So I play one more waiting move, making him believe that I'm going to continue on with my plan to try to break. Because now I actually can break. But my king's vulnerable, and whoops, he's going to be able to get through faster than I can. So I don't really want to do that, but I want him to think that I'm doing that. So this was kind of a waiting move just to see what he would do. And he moved his king to e7. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a super horrible place for the king. And I think this was my next longest think. Move 22. Yeah, I spent 7 minutes here. And no, not on this move. I spent 7 minutes on the h4 move just to make him think. And then I calculated the next piece. So I'm going to force him to kind of come in. And if he takes, that's fine, because my queen is lined up with his king. So if he wants to take here, he can, but I'm going to start pushing, and this is going to come alive, and I think it's going to be very difficult for him. So he comes in, and I said, okay, well, let's blow it all up. I know that this loses a pawn if he plays it correctly, but I wanted the activity more than anything. And he took, and I took, which I don't think that's the best way to take. I think I don't really know what the best way to take here is. It's quite possible just ignoring it was the best way to go. I did think of that possible move, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. I'm okay with all of that, and I'm just gonna take all this stuff. But he took here and took here, and he didn't take back because he didn't want to double his pawns. And he didn't take with the knight because then he would have doubled his pawns with me taking with the bishop. And then I'm going to get this open file on his queen, and so yeah, I took. Let's open it up more, and yes, let's line the rooks up on the open file positionally. This is just huge for me, and yeah, I know this knight's here, and it's got this really nice outpost, but what is it doing? You can't go anywhere. It's stuck. It's kind of it's just dead weight in the middle of the board. So he gets out of the pin, which is smart. And I saw this cool move. The reason I moved this here was for this square. And I thought, oh, well, it can get really, really scary if he decides to let me allow that. Yeah, this is just devastating for him. So he comes back and protects that square, which was a smart move. And I don't have all my pieces in the game, so let's get now. Oops. Now my pieces are coming to play. I don't really need to worry about the king side. That's all locked up. So even if he ever plays h5, it doesn't really matter. And he comes after my queen. I go after this weak square. This backwards pawn is just a problem that he has to deal with for a long time. And now you can see why I have my bishops coming this way. And we just gain control of all of these squares. And I was like, yeah, you can have the pawn. I don't care because I can just stop. I thought about coming here right away. And maybe that is the best move. But I didn't think so because I don't have any more checks after that. And I had no way to really follow it up after king to f8. And then after king to f8, I don't have any more checks. I have to do something. Oh, I guess, no, I don't. Because right now I have that. But I didn't want this coming in and, you know, harassing my king. So I said, well, okay, we're just going to stop that. And really kind of his only move. So I decided I was going to stop that even further. So he can't come anywhere. The only place he could come was here, which is fine. And then we're okay with that. I'm not too worried about any of that stuff. Everything's fine because we still always had this move. And we even have like discovery issues if he comes here because this is coming here. It's going to get bad. And I still always have this check. So he comes in trying to deflect and keep things out of my system here. And, you know, I've got this huge battery. You know, what do they call this? Alkine's gun? Alkine's gun or whatever. I think the queen's in the back, but hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for coming out. So he tries to block, and I just peel it off. And now I take the rook, and you know, I was expecting this type of behavior, but he didn't do that. He just brought his knight back in, and I took his other rook, and now I'm just straight winning by a full 2 rooks. And he takes here, and he gets met with that devastation. Double attack on the king and winning another piece. And now he's just straight down 2 rooks and a menacing passed pawn, which won't be needed. The game played on for a few more moves after this. He decided to play it out until he had no more pieces left, but which rightfully so he should. Don't resign. You can always get stalemated, but there's no danger of that here. I think he took. I think it played out this way. And yeah, he had to go back, and yeah, something like that. Yeah, pretty good game from Nick. He is a strong player. I don't think young players, I don't believe, know how to deal with the English that well. I think a lot of people don't know how to really deal with it unless they've been playing chess for a long time. But overall, really good game. I enjoyed it, but that was round one. It felt pretty good. Um, round one was pretty awesome. So why? Yeah, the entire board. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was tough to break through. There's not much. He had really no chances of any plans. If we kind of just buzz through it really quick, I mean, look how embarrassed his pieces are. They can't really do much. The only plan that he has, he did, and it led him really nowhere. So, yeah, I made a kingside attack. He decided to move his king back in the middle, and I went after it. Uh, Interesting move. What move? After f5. All right, f5. After bishop h4. Okay, bishop h4. Open up the F file. He can play g5. Yeah. Yeah, he can. I was hoping that he would. Yeah. I wanted this to happen. I was hoping that would happen actually. Now maybe it's good for him, but yeah, he doesn't. This would give him a lot more play, absolutely. Because then this would happen, and I think we have to do that to free our bishop. Or actually, yeah, we have to do that. I mean, yeah, how do you want to lose? At least this gives counter-attacking chances because though I have pieces on my side, he now has a little bit more space to bring his pieces back. The queen can come here. This other rook can come back over. So there's definitely things that he can do to help out. But yeah. No, I feel like this is better chances for sure. Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting position. I feel like I have to do that. Um, and then come back here like this. Now maybe I wouldn't put it there. I might. It's tough to say. See, now my bishop's not really doing a lot. So yeah, that would have been an interesting, better way to do it. Yeah, maybe. Tough to say. Either way, good game. Nick put up a really good fight. Really awesome. Okay, so let's close out of that one and let's take a look at the next one.